¿Qué pasa, YouTube? What's up, everybody? Hopefully y'all are having a good Monday today. This was a pretty fun, exciting UU battle I had against GangstaFinn off of my Discord, which is where I mainly go to take battles. And I think this is probably the funnest battle I've had, not counting league battles, in a couple of weeks, if I'm being honest with you guys. I'm using this really cool team that was based around Z-Move Salazzle and Scarf Crocodile and a bulky mono-attacking Mega Altaria. So if you guys do enjoy this battle, which I'm sure you guys will, then make sure to hammer arm that like button down below. So as you can tell from the length, this was about a 40 turn game. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this started. So going into this game, Terrakion plus Infernape was going to be kind of terrifying to deal with. Also Mega Aerodactyl late game, if I lose my Crocodile, could be a bit of a problem, so I have to watch out for that. I am going to be leading off with my Rotom Wash, and she's going to be leading off with his Celebi. Turn 1, I don't expect him to go straight for a grass type move, so I'm just going to go for the Volt Switch as he ends up getting up his Stealth Rocks. This is not entirely too big of an issue because I do have Defog on my Empoleon. However though, I don't want to switch directly into my Empoleon this early on in the battle because my Empoleon is my main answer to that Primarina, which is why I'm not entirely at all concerned about Primarina, because so long as I have Empoleon, Primarina honestly shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. So by making this this Volt switch into my Salazzle here, I'm actually going to go ahead and pop my Z move on the first turn that I have Salazzle in. This allowed me to get off a huge hit on either the Aerodactyl or the Infernape, which is the two mons I thought he was mainly going to switch into, but he actually ends up switching into his Terrakion here, and I do a solid 50% as this following turn. I'm hoping that Hidden Power Grass will be enough to knock him out. Unfortunately though, he does end up barely surviving on around 2 or 3% HP as he then goes for the Rock Polish, and this is not entirely too concerning because his best move to go for in this scenario is realistically the Stone Edge. Like, there was no reason for him, in my opinion, to have gone straight for the close combat, which is why I make the aggressive switch directly into my Cobalion, knowing that I can take a Stone Edge, and thanks to the fact that this team actually has Chople Berry Cobalion, which I originally thought that this was just a really bad idea on Cobalion, but I guess in this scenario, Chople Berry Cobalion ends up really saving me because Rock Polish Terrakion actually would have absolutely blown back the rest of my team. So I'm able to get rid of a sleeper threat in Terrakion very early on in the game. However though, I do still have to worry about the Infernape and potentially the Mega Aerodactyl. So in comes the Infernape. I don't want to take a potential Flare Blitz, so I end up making a hard switch into my mostly physically defensive Altaria. This Altaria has a lot of defensive Vs, couple HP Vs, and not a couple HP Vs, but a couple speedy Vs, and I think it's max HP if I'm not mistaken. The pace pin is down below for you guys to go check out. So I think he ended up going for the U-turn. As he U-turns into the Celebi, I then end up switching out here. No, I think he went for the close combat or the Flare Blitz, if I'm not mistaken, and then I double out into my Salazzle, predicting him to bring in either the Fortress or bring in the Celebi. This way, I can just safely go for the Fire Blast and get off a huge hit on Aerodactyl or the Infernape, you know, if I actually bothered hitting any Fire Blasts I ever went for. That miss actually does kind of suck and plays a little role later in this battle, but it's not game-changing in the slightest, honestly. I would have done a solid like 30 to like 38-ish% to this Mega Aerodactyl. So I'm going to switch into my Crocodile here, honestly just expecting him to want to go for the Stone Edge as opposed to going for the Earthquake because I do have Rotom Wash in the back, but he just goes straight for the Earthquake, and I'm thinking he may stay in thinking that I don't have a move to hit him with. So I'm going to go straight for the Iron Tail. This was, again, just a bad play on my part. Like, realistically, I should have just gone for the knockoff. Like, nothing on his team really wants to switch into knockoff now that Terrakion is gone, and Iron Tailing there again was just a really dumb play on my part. And I would have been able to get rid of this Fortress's potential leftovers or whatever item he's potentially carrying, as I make a hard switch into my Empoleon. Very positive he wouldn't want to go straight for the Volt Switch, as he ends up critting me on the switching. Crit does not matter at all because it only did like 2 more points of damage, but what this does allow me to do is go for the defog. The only downside to this play is that then he could potentially Volt Switch into the Celebi, but that's not entirely too concerning since my Altaria should be a solid answer to that Celebi. However though, as long as he has this damn Fortress around, I cannot do anything with my Altaria because my only offensive move is Return, which turns into a Fairy type move when I Mega Evolve, and currently is now a normal type move. So at the same time, I wasn't thinking he would just leave in Fortress. I thought that he would maybe try and hard switch out so I wouldn't hit him with the Scald. But then he Volt Switches into the Primarina, which is screaming to me that he's got the Energy Ball. But because I am still very specially defensive, I'm going to take this chance to go for the Toxic. This way I can start getting some type of residual damage on this Primarina, allowing me to deal with it a lot easier later in this match, because the more that this Primarina stays in here, the more toxic damage it will be taken, and the closer it will be in range of where I can then knock him out with a offensive move from one of my other Pokemon. So I end up making an aggressive switch here into my Salazzle, just thinking he would go for another Energy Ball. Plus, I do 4 times resist it, while Salazzle has no defenses whatsoever. It's still not going to be doing too much damage to me, so I am in a pretty decent position here. I can honestly just go straight for the Fire Blast. I could have even potentially gone for the Sludge Wave, but Fire Blast is my hardest hitting move to hit this Aerodactyl and to hit his Infernape upon the switch-in. So I'm going to switch out here just hoping that he would not have the Pursuit, which luckily he doesn't go for the Pursuit this turn, and I will be able to bring in my Rotom Wash. Even if he had gone for the Stone Edge that turn, there was a chance that he might have missed, and it wouldn't have done entirely too much damage to me. And what this allows me to do is get a slow Volt Switch off on his team, and because he's got no ground types or no lightning rod Pokemon or no Volt Absorb Pokemon, I can just come in with Rotom every time against the Infernape and against the Aerodactyl and just click Volt Switch, forcing them out or taking a hit and then getting off a huge amount of damage on them. And what this allows me to do is bring in Salazzle, which again, I can just click Fire Blast because really I have no drawback in doing so. And because he has kept switching into Aerodactyl, I thought that he was going to try to switch it in again, but this time he ends up bringing in the Infernape, which is slightly annoying because if I had gone for the Sludge Wave there, I think I would have done a minimum of like 65%, putting him in range of where another Fire Blast on a switch and actually would have knocked him out. So I'm going to switch out here again this turn because I need to absolutely keep Salazzle. Salazzle is a humongous threat to his team because anytime I get a free switch into it, I'm going to be smacking something for a minimum of 30%, whether it be the Aerodactyl or it be this Infernape. Plus, Salazzle beats his Celebi and it beats his only thing that's stopping my Altaria, which is his Fortress. So he ends up going for the Flare Blitz after running the calc. It turns out that he is most likely a Scarf set because Banded Flare Blitz would have done a lot more damage to me, and then I can go for another Volt Switch. Much like against the Aerodactyl, I just get a free Volt Switch back into my Salazzle. So I'm going to click the Fire Blast again because I'm thinking, okay, he's probably going to try to bring back in the Aerodactyl here, but I miss as he brings in the Infernape, and that is slightly annoying. But because I switched out earlier, I do expect them to want to go for the U-turn this turn to be able to gain momentum on my switch, because again, if I brought in Rotom for free, that's a free Volt Switch and a switch back into my Salazzle so I can nuke something potentially. As I do Fire Blast the incoming Mega Aerodactyl here, I'm thinking he doesn't have the Pursuit, but then he reveals to have the Pursuit, and now this is really bad because now I've lost my main answer to the Celebi and now the Fortress, which means the future of my Altaria in this game is looking even more bleak because I don't have any other fire type move on this team, and now I still have to deal with that Infernape and the Celebi and this Aerodactyl, which is going to get off a decent amount of damage with the Earthquake. I was really hoping that he was going to switch out here, and I end up revealing to him that I am Scarfed, and this is where me missing Fire Blast earlier kind of matters because he was able to get off the Earthquake damage on my Crocodile, but again, in the long run of the game, doesn't really end up mattering whatsoever, but at the time it was a little bit annoying. So he's gonna bring in the Infernape, which I'm very confident is Scarfed. Even if he wasn't Scarfed, I'm locked into Pursuit, so I can't stay in, and he most likely is going to go for the U-turn because there's no reason for me to stay in with my Crocodile, which is why I bring in my Cobalion. Also, by bringing in Cobalion, I might have been able to force him into the Fortress, and then I could have gone for a Swords Dance or just gone straight for the close combat to get off some damage as he actually U-turns into the Celebi. I'm thinking that he most likely is going to go for the rocks this turn, which is why I go for the Sword Dance, but he turns out to have the Thunder Wave. And that is even more annoying because now this Celebi could potentially beat my Cobalion 1v1 and I'm not going to be able to get off any damage on him. And then Ironhead at +2 does 0. Giga Drain did more damage than I was expecting. Like, I really thought I would be able to take 2 Giga Drains and then Ironhead would do slightly over 50%, but I'm guessing I just underestimated Celebi and he's able to knock me out here. Thankfully though, with that damage, I do put him in range of where knockoff from my Crocodile can finish him off. The only issue with that though is that he could easily switch out, but there is a chance that he may think that I'll go for the pursuit. Regardless, he does still not have anything on his team that wants to switch into a knockoff. Even if he had brought in the Primarina to take the knockoff, it's taking knockoff damage and then it's also taking toxic damage, and then I have a pretty good check to it in the form of my Empoleon in the back, which with Primarina losing its specs is not going to be doing anywhere near enough damage to my Empoleon to beat it 1v1. So I do end up knocking off and I'm able to catch the Celebi, which means now I have a chance to win this battle, which is awesome because things were really not looking good for me. The fact that he didn't get up rocks again is also absolutely huge because now that we both don't have stealth rockers, it's going to be an even playing field. However though, there is a chance that he may have spikes on this fortress, so I'm going to switch into my Rotom, expecting him to go for a layer of spikes, but he ends up going for the Gyro Ball, and this is perfectly fine by me because what this allows me to do now is go for the Will-O-Wisp, because realistically, I don't think he's going to switch out into the Primarina or into the Infernape on a Rotom Wash, as I then miss another move and I missed my Will-O-Wisp, and this really set me back in this battle because if I had hit that Will-O-Wisp on Fortress, there was a good possibility that my Altaria could have been able to just set up against the Fortress and eventually beat it 1v1, or if anything, I would have been able to outstall the rest of his Gyro Balls, which wouldn't have been doing much damage at all because he was burned. So he ends up going for the Volt Switch, as I believe this turn I end up switching into my, not my Primarina, but into my Altaria, expecting him to go for the Energy Ball. Honestly, even if he went for the Moonblast and knocked out my Altaria, it wouldn't have been entirely too game-changing in my opinion. At least by bringing in Altaria and catching him on the Energy Ball, what this allows me to do is keep Altaria more or less as a pivot mon as opposed to my wind condition at this point in the battle, because I did miss the Will-O-Wisp against the Fortress, and again, I have no move to hit this Fortress with, so I'm going to stand here thinking that he's either going to want to go for the Gyro Ball or possibly go for the Volt Switch, and if it really came down to it, I was more than happy to stall him out of all of his Gyro Balls, which I believe he's already gone for 2, so he only had 6 maximum left. So he ends up going for the Volt Switch here back into the Primarina. I do outspeed Primarina, but I don't want to stay in and risk me not potentially knocking him out. I guess there was also the chance that he might have tried to switch directly back into the Fortress, or he could be fearing me maybe having like a fire type move to actually hit Fortress with, but I think at this point I would have gone for it if I did have it. So I do end up getting a safe switch back into my Empoleon here. Unfortunately, he does end up getting the special attack drop, which is slightly annoying. Is it game changing? Not really, but at the moment it was really annoying because I've literally just been getting hacks this entire battle. Like, I don't think I've got a single bit of hacks against him, and I've missed 3 moves and I've gotten a special attack drop and no burns with Scald. So I'm gonna go for the Scald here. Honestly, all I want to do is just beat down this Primarina. I am in range of where another Moonblast can actually knock me out, and I miscapped my Empoleon here since I'm not max special defense. Unless he gets a like super low damage roll, I can't live this Moonblast, but he does end up getting that super low roll, and this is going to allow me to go for the Scald and end up beating this Primarina 1v1. Now, let's say that he did get the roll in his favor to knock me out. He still would have been knocked out by the Toxic, and then on the double down, that would have given me a free switch into my Rotom Wash, because at this point, Rotom Wash, in theory, should be able to deal with both this Fortress and the Infernape. So he actually ends up bringing in the fortress here on my Empoleon, even though I am in torrent range because of the special attack drop he got with the Moon Blast. I don't do necessarily too much damage to the fortress, but I do end up doing enough damage to where a Hydro Pump might be able to knock him out from my Rotom Wash. So he ends up picking me off with the Volt Switch, as in comes the Infernape. I am just going to go straight for the Hydro Pump and hope that I don't miss if he stays in and goes for the close combat, but he ends up going for the U-turn into the fortress, which means even if I miss, I have another chance to go for it. But thankfully, my Rotom is not blind this time, and I'm able to knock out the fortress, and at this point, his last Pokemon is going to be the Infernape, which, again, I'm very confident at this moment in the battle that it is definitely Choice Scarf, which means it does not really matter what he locks himself into, because he will not be able to beat the combination of my Rotom Wash and my Mega Altaria, because then I could just Mega Evolve and still resist both of his dual stabs, and I will actually be able to knock him out here with the Volt Switch for the victory in my favor. So very, very good game to GangstaFinn. Like I said, I really had a blast during this battle. Like, honestly, this is probably the funnest battle I've had just in like a regular Wi-Fi battle that I've had in general, because things were looking so bleak at the beginning, and then if he had switched out with Celebi on the turn that I went for knockoff, that definitely would have given him a greater chance to potentially win this battle. But once I was able to break Celebi and get rid of it, that was able to shift a little bit of momentum into my favor and give me a solid chance of being able to come back and actually win the battle. So yeah, win or lose, I still most likely would have uploaded this. And if you guys did enjoy it, make sure to hammer arm that like button down below. And with that being said, I will see you all tomorrow, most likely with another battle. So thank you for watching, guys. Later, everybody.
No matter where you're at, I'm not here to make friends. It's time to attack and deplete your HP with a final smash. Don't make me turn around and pull a 6ft Hax. 6ft Hax. Yeah. 6ft Hax. Yeah. 6ft Hax.